new youngsters have joined NITI Aayog, giving new freshness. NITI runs with the help of states and so forth. So this was the sort of some parts of the Prime Minister's opening speech. It goes on, but let me also then tell you about the rest of the meeting. And perhaps, a little bit also about the Prime Minister's closing remarks, which were very, very moving. After the Prime Minister's opening remarks, our CEO, NITI Aayog, gave a wonderful presentation. I think we will try to post it. That should be available to you in perhaps the next hour or so on our website. Maybe you would like to describe what you said, then I can come back to describing the rest of the...
So actually NITI has done some path-breaking work in the last 2 years. We have moved away from what Planning Commission used to do in terms of allocation of resources to creating outcomes in various sectors, and then working with the states and partnering the states to make a qualitative improvement in education, in health, in water index. And we've taken several measures, policy measures in agriculture. We've created an index in agriculture. We've also done a lot of work around digital payment, as you are all aware, Digidhan Melas, BMAP, taking this whole digital movement across, having a Chief Minister's Committee, and then a lot of work in innovation field, Atal Innovation Mission, supporting schools in tinkering labs, in incubation centers, trying to drive innovation, redefining and restructuring government in terms of doing this whole work around tribunals, around autonomous institutions, working with the railways on restructuring them. Also on a lot of work is presently on in reworking the institutions of government, like moving away from Medical Council of India, or doing restructuring the UGC or AICTE, and looking at how PPP can work in various areas of health, etc. So a lot of those innovative things that have been done, very innovative things that have been done, these were brought out. We also brought out where the problem lies in India, and we showed maps of India, and to show which states have done well on education historically and which states have not done well. कई states ने बहुत अच्छा काम किया है, वो हरे रंग में थे. जो states ने ठीक काम किया है वो येलो रंग में थे, और जो states ने उतना अच्छा परफॉर्म नहीं किया था वो लाल में थे. तो सबको एक आँख से नज़र आ रहा था कि भाई कौन स्टेट्स को इम्प्रूव करना है, हेल्थ, इन्फेंट मोर्टेलिटी में, मैटरनल मोर्टेलिटी में, और जिनके यहाँ डॉक्टर्स की कमी है, बेड्स की कमी है, तो ये सब दिखाया. और जब तक वो लाल हरा नहीं होगा तब तक देश आगे नहीं जा पाएगा. तो इसी तरह एक एनालिसिस थी डिस्ट्रिक्ट्स की, कौन से 100 डिस्ट्रिक्ट्स हैं जो हेल्थ में, एजुकेशन में और कनेक्टिविटी में ख़राब हैं, और वो 100 डिस्ट्रिक्ट्स अगर इम्प्रूव हो सकते हैं तो देश बहुत आगे तरक्की करेगा. और ये एक एनालिटिकल सा प्रेजेंटेशन था जो कि आज दिखाया गया था.
So then I made a presentation on the 15-year vision, 7-year strategy, and 3-year action plan. What I did was we have actually a draft of the 3-year action agenda, which we circulated to the chief ministers and the members of the council. The Prime Minister later in his closing remarks said that this is a draft on which please do send us send your comments. A lot of the comments were made obviously at the council meeting also, but of course there had been as a part of my presentation I pointed out that we had done very extensive consultations. We had inputs from states, we had inputs from the central ministries, inputs from industry chambers, voluntary organizations, experts in nearly every field. Written inputs were also received from several dozen sources, including actually several of these inputs came from the states themselves. So a lot of consultation had actually been done, but we also have invited, if the chief ministers would like to give further inputs, we'll take that, all that into account. My own so in the presentation, I focused on first giving a snapshot of where we could be in 15 years' time by 2031-32, because the first year we are beginning of this 15-year period is the year 17-18, the current fiscal year. And after that, I gave them a little bit of glimpse of what the 3-year action plan or 3-year action agenda proposes. It is divided into some 7 parts and 24 chapters, and I very quickly summarized the essential outline of it to the chief ministers and other members of the council. We then had a presentation from the chief minister of Madhya Pradesh on doubling farmers' income, and the chief minister described through using a very, very impressive presentation the various initiatives in agriculture that he had taken, and the initiatives that had actually led to a very, very large increase in income of the farmers over the last 8 to 10 years. That was followed by comments by Dr. Ramesh Chand, our member agriculture, who then pointed out several of the reform measures that will be required. He drew a distinction between agricultural output and agricultural income, and said one did not mean the other, and talked about how farmers, what steps need to be taken to give farmers better share in the price that the final consumer pays, what needs to be done to raise productivity, and so forth. And then we had a presentation from the Revenue Secretary on the GST, and he urged the states to pass the state GST law, because there is some urgency there since the government wishes to get started with the implementation of GST from July 1. And that is very much the target and very realistic one. So those were the presentations, after which we had comments from the chief ministers, and in all there were 28 chief ministers represented. There were 27 chief ministers, and Mr. Kejriwal was represented by his deputy chief minister, Mr. Sishodia. Officers, including the chief secretaries, were 29, and a total of about 171 people participated in the proceedings. Very, very useful comments were made by nearly every chief minister. These comments were about the presentations, on the presentations, but also informing the council on the various initiatives that their states had taken. I think the comments are too detailed. It will be difficult for me to give you, chief minister by chief minister account. I did make some notes here, but let me not try to do that. Finally, just as a part of the summary, let me say what the Prime Minister said in his closing remarks. He said that we have discussed all day what direction we want to take. And NITI document was discussed. Discussion was very positive. He said, कि बहुत सकारात्मक विचार थे मुख्यमंत्रियों के. The document, he also said, is a draft document, what has been said, circulated, and what you sent earlier will be considered, and if you send, if you would like to quickly send us further comments, we will certainly consider those after in the preparation of the final version. Only then it will be finalized. He then proceeded to say that, look, old ways will not do. We must change. Even if resources are there, if governance is poor, we will not do well. So he really went on to emphasize greatly the governance. He also referred to the appeal by the J&K Chief Minister, who had said that, who had invited all those present to her state. She had made a very impassioned plea that all of those present should visit Kashmir, and she had also mentioned that Kashmiri children who are studying in the other states, please turn them into into your ambassadors back to Kashmir. And the Prime Minister stressed on that. He really urged every Chief Minister that they not only establish contact with the Kashmiri youths who are around in their states, but actually depute a person to proactively engage with them. He then talked about GST, that we should complete the process, and he urged the state chief ministers not to delay. He also talked a bit about the JAM. This is the portal that the Commerce Ministry has put out for procurement, and he said GEM. So this is, and he said, please study the booklet and take advantage of the portal. Maharashtra Chief Minister had actually already begun to, or Maharashtra had already begun to use it, and Maharashtra Chief Minister had alluded to it with great deal of appreciation, and the Prime Minister then also alluded to that fact in his closing remarks. Then he talked a bit about Ek Bharat Shresth Bharat. He said, it should be our continuous effort. We should seek unity in our diversity. He gave as an example that, look, Tamil is such a rich language, but how many of us know anything about such a rich language? And he said, that states should make a direct effort. Maybe they should have MOUs and all, so that states in one or the citizens of one state learn something. It may be about culture, it may be about for dance, about music, about literature, but learn something about another state's culture and literature. So he sort of invited everybody to strengthen the Ek Bharat Shresth Bharat. He also then talked about Digital India, Aadhaar, Jan Dhan accounts and all, that implemented in the state schemes also. We have been saving thousands of crores of rupees, and the states can do the same. He also let's see. Then he, towards the end, he also said that we need to start thinking seriously about many things that we have not given sufficient serious thought to. In particular, alluding to again some earlier remarks, he talked about the elections taking place at one time. He said we should look at it very seriously, how much time gets used up. Continuously we are having elections, and if we could really come together, and he said, that he heard a lot of consensus towards such a move, and it's a one-time thing. If we could really do it, then we could in 5 years spend maybe 1 or 2 months doing just elections, but then for the rest of the 5 years we could all do serious work. He also, as example, he said, he said, I'll give you some example, very basic things that we have not thought about. So he said, look, his 5-year plan, 12th 5-year plan went from 2012 to 17. Then there was the term of the government. that went from 2000 central government, that went from 2009 to 14. Then there was Finance Commission, which went from 2010 to 15. And then he said there was a Pay Commission, which went from 2006 to 16. And he said these should all be generally synchronized, but they are not. So there's so much mismatch, and that, of course, creates governance problems. So he also talked a bit about the fact that budgets were now that the central government had prepared its budget early this time, and he said that has really led to now expenditures actually starting off on April 1st. He also talked about the fact that on the one hand we got a lot of redundant laws, on the other there are laws that get made, but rules and regulations don't get written. And he said that perhaps NITI Aayog should consider, NITI Aayog and states should consider what is in the domain of the executive, what is in the domain of the judiciary, commissions, etc. That this whole issue of different institutions encroaching on each other's territory. So finally, he, in closing, he went to talk about how we should use the 2022, which is the 75th anniversary of independence, and 2019, which is Mahatma Gandhi's 150th birthday, to bring together, to create, to use these as unifying events, unifying dates. Can farmers, for example, resolve to reduce urea use by 10% by 2022? He said, that we use these to bring people together and in the process also accomplish something that get people's attention focused, that look, here is something very big here coming through. What can we do which would take us to some accomplishment? He said, can we do these things? He talked about Sankalp Samarpan and not just Bauddhik Charcha, and that was where he then concluded his remarks. He congratulated NITI Aayog as he concluded, and also thanked the chief ministers. So that is the full account of
Sir, could you please tell us briefly about the targets set in the 3-year action plan?
There are no targets in the 3-year action plan. The 3-year action plan has, as I said, lots of action points. There is a in the part 1, there is a revenue and expenditure exercise undertaken, and the purpose of that is to largely give an illustration of how, based on priorities we set, we can in fact, even within a 3-year period, begin to shift our expenditures as per the things like increasing expenditures on health, increasing expenditures on basically capital expenditures, mainly the infrastructure, increasing expenditures on agriculture, rural economy, and all. So that exercise is there. But other than that, there are no targets set. What the document does is, so after the part 1, there are 6 other parts. So second part deals with major sectors: agriculture, industry, and services. Part 3 deals with growth enablers, which is transport connectivity, digital connectivity, public-private partnership, energy, science and technology, innovation and entrepreneurship. Then there's part 4. Part 5 goes on government, governance, tax policy and administration, pro-competition policies and regulation, rule of law. Part 6 on social sectors, health, education, and building an inclusive society. Last part on sustainability, part 7, environment and forest, and sustainable management of water resources. So, but in each of these, there are several action points that the document recommends. We will do a little more detailed discussion as we go of the action document, I think today was meeting of the governing council, so I largely have focused on the proceedings of the governing council.
Sir, if we can ask a couple of questions. One is the reaction of the non-BJP chief ministers. Specifically, if you want to talk about issues like the agriculture and especially farmers of Tamil Nadu, or what issues were raised by the Deputy Chief Minister Manish Sisodia, that would be helpful, sir.
Yeah, so Deputy Chief Minister Manish Sisodia actually attended the first half, but post-lunch he was not there. So unfortunately, we didn't get the benefit of his comments. Among others, I think there was huge amount of consensus around doubling farmer income. Even there was at least I don't remember there being any disagreement on that particular issue, whether they were the BJP chief ministers or non-BJP chief ministers.
Did the Tamil Nadu chief minister in particular raise the demands of the farmers? Would you recall that?
He mentioned about drought.
Okay.
No, I think we had today's meeting on the whole was an extremely positive meeting. So you couldn't feel that there was an opposition and there was a BJP ruled states or anything like that. It was like a Team India working. Everybody made good, positive, constructive suggestions.
Not even with the Aam Aadmi Party?
Mr. Shishodia was there in the morning. He didn't comment in the afternoon. But there was Mr. Nitish Kumar was there. There was the Orissa Chief Minister was there, Mr. Naveen Patnaik. So all of them, and there was the Puducherry Chief Minister as well. All of them were extremely constructive and positive in their approach today. They all came up with ideas of how to take India forward rather than.
What is the takeaways of this governing council meeting? What is the takeaway you can understand from this?
Well, I think the takeaway should be one that NITI Aayog has been able to quickly put together a 3-year action plan before all the chief ministers. One. And so that really, we moved away from the planning period, which ends on 31st of May, which ended on the planning regime of India, which we've had so far after independence, has ended on 31st of March this year. So there's no vacuum. NITI Aayog has already very quickly worked on a 3-year action plan, which has been laid before all the chief ministers, and it is based on inputs received from all the states, all the ministries, and from a lot of experts from various fields, and that has been very ably put together by the vice chairman, which was laid before the chief ministers, and all of them supported his vision of how the country needs to grow for the next 15, the vision which NITI Aayog was presented by the vice chairman, on where should the country go in the next 15 years, where can we be in the next 15 years in terms of GDP, in terms of per capita income, and that vision was fully supported by all the chief ministers. So that is what VC is saying, that we'll have to have a separate meeting. It's not that will require a separate 1-hour interaction with all of you. So we'll do a separate 1-hour interaction with you. So PM has talked, VC mentioned a number of things, what the PM has talked about. PM also stressed on the fact that there are regional imbalances which we need to correct. And states we'll take action, states need to take action, work on this. PM also stressed on pushing for digital payment through using Bhima. And actually, a great thing was that a lot of states, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, all have done great work around digital payment. Andhra, all of them. So, but one point which came out in this thing was that we need to improve our infrastructure for BharatNet very quickly.
let me.
माफी या रोजगार सृजन को लेकर कोई बात थी, कर्ज माफी या किसानों की कर्ज माफी या रोजगार सृजन पर भी कोई चर्चा हुई आज में?
नहीं, इस बारे में कोई चर्चा नहीं है. Let me just add a couple more things. In terms of two things, I would say the takeaway is also that almost uniformly the fact that NITI Aayog had come in its form and that a new way of doing things had been established was largely appreciated. There had been discussions around this before that somehow there was some vacuum created or something after the Planning Commission was established. But those kind of misgivings were completely absent today. Also, I think this cooperative spirit between the states and the central government that came through very, very strongly. So that I would take is
Talking about the funds being utilized, there is no provision in 70 years. What has happened that the money being sent is how to protect the embezzlement, misappropriations of funds. That you have not discussed at all. What measures do you have to protect? That's what we call corruption. I don't know about the misappropriation.
No, that was not the subject. That subject.
We have to protect.
That was not the subject of the today. It was not that was not the subject of today's today's NITI Aayog Governing Council meeting. That I can't answer you for what was not the subject.
One question is just a small context. You talked about the Prime Minister. It's also there in the Prime Minister's office release. Then he urged all chief ministers to take care of Kashmiri students. What was the context of his comments?
No, that was that came after the J&K Chief Minister had said.
Did she say that
The context was from the Chief Minister. Did she say what? No. That was simply not the spirit of it at all.
The intention was to make them feel comfortable, and they have gone out in several states of India, and we need to